Boom! Hi! Hey there, and welcome back to Mr. Larry's Craft Show. Last week we got a little busy with a bunch of different projects all happening at once, so I thank you so much for being understanding, and while I cannot wait to share those projects with you all, I'm more interested in knowing how y'all are doing. Tie-dye, tie and dye, got to tie it before you dye it. You got to tie it before you dye it. We have attempted tie-dye on this channel before. In fact, it's one of my first few episodes, but I'm always combing the net for new materials and techniques and interesting approaches to our projects. Ice tie-dyeing has taken the world by snowstorm and has melted the hearts of color lovers everywhere. And with the help of Tulip's tie-dye ice kit, all we have to do is add ice. Before we get into today's video, I want to send a big thank you to Tulip, Gildan, and Joann Stores for sponsoring today's supply. These are all things I probably would have purchased anyway, but I'm a loyal Tulip fan, and every time I've gotten good results with tie-dyeing, it's been with their products. And of course, me and Joann are like this, but honestly, I'm just trying to work on a creative collaboration with Phyllis Smith, and I know y'all listening, so let's tip the iceberg on ice tie-dyeing with 3 things that'll help us complete our project, starting with thing number 1. If we take a look back into our last foray into tie-dyeing, we'll find that it's mostly comprised of techniques and materials that are thousands of years old, and that the craft found its height of celebration in the United States circa the 1970s. But it never really went away. In fact, it snaps back to us year after year like a rubber band. There's little question why. It's fun, it's colorful, and it's endlessly customizable. You can let your colors be wild and spontaneous, or you can meticulously mold a magical mandala of myriad color, or anything in between. The simple combination of fiber plus water and dye times resist equals more creative opportunity than can be measured. It's no wonder there are so many different ways to explore this craft, which brings us to thing number 2. Traditional tie-dye for crafters like myself uses powder or liquid dye to penetrate the fibers of the fabric. The dye is most often carried by water, which is easily resisted by rubber bands. Oh, ow! This allows you to create specific resists that leave interesting gaps in your color. Ice dyeing takes this concept and shakes it all up. By using powdered dyes and ice as our water source, we get unpredictable, interesting, paint-like effects. And that brings us to thing number 3. Ice tie-dye can be as simple or as complex as you want. The power is yours! You can use traditional binding techniques to create stripes, bullseyes, concentric rings, and more. The addition of ice in this tie-dye technique impacts the distribution of color more than anything. When dyeing with liquid, one might place colors in specific sections of your tie-dyed shirt to produce specific results. But with ice dyeing, the powder is applied directly on top of or underneath the ice. As the ice melts and turns to water, the water carries the colored pigments to wherever the water can go and saturates your fabric. Some solid colors of fabric dye are actually comprised of several different pigments, and you'll see these separate out and create little surprises around your project as they come in contact with the water. So let's embrace the spontaneity of this project and get started. For this project, I'm using a Tulip ice dye kit, which comes with a few cool colors, get it? An ice dyeing tray, and reusable packaging to aid in your work, as well as gloves, rubber bands, and instructions for use. I'm also including soda ash, which is a dye process additive that helps your colors come out extra vibrant and stay that way. It's not a necessity for these intense tulip dyes, but it's never steered me wrong, and it's really inexpensive. After soaking my fabric in a soda ash mixture for the recommended 20 minutes, I gently wring them out and then I prepare them for dyeing. For this first shirt, I'm going to attempt this geode effect that I've seen around the internet, where there are these thin concentric rings and this beautiful colors of a typical geode. I'm hoping to see thin white lines and then radiating color around each of the rings that I've made. I'm simply gathering the fabric of one side of the shirt into a point, and then I wrap the rubber bands around in like a randomly spaced manner. Some of the spaces are thin, some of the spaces are wider. I want them to feel really organic. Make sure that the bands are tight so that they create resists for the dye. And this is going to be the same technique whether you want to create a bullseye, you want to make stripes in your shirt, or any other resist shape. If you want to see some extra examples of different resist shapes, you can check out my first video on tie-dye. So if you're looking for even more unpredictability with your dye application, you can simply scrunch your fabric into your dyeing container and then place your ice and powdered dye directly on top of that. Without resist, your project is going to become this beautiful mottled landscape of color. Once you've prepared the project, you can begin dyeing the fabric. This kit comes with a tray to help prevent your project from sitting in colored water as the ice melts. I'm also going to be improvising with a few other vessels since I'm working on multiple projects at once. You can place a lighter colored powder directly on top of the fabric under the ice to help it stay a bit more visible, while darker colors tend to have no problem penetrating from above the ice. Spread an even layer of ice over your fabric and then liberally sprinkle your dye powder on top of that. The dye is going to mix with the water as it melts, and then it's going to bleed into the fabric. Also, you can use any Tulip one-step dye for this, so any of their ready-to-use tie-dye kits can work. I'm also going to be trying some other projects. I want to see if I can get an ombre sort of effect by putting the sleeves and the body of this shirt in different vessels and then putting ice and different colors of dye there. So we'll see how this shirt comes out. I also have another t-shirt that I'm working on. It's really nice to have all these different projects at once because it's a lot of different colorful surprises. In some cases, you might need to dye the other side of your project as well, especially if it's a larger project. Sometimes your larger projects don't get all of the saturation that they need, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with flipping it over and dyeing the other side, or even completely washing it and then re-dyeing on top of that. Once you're satisfied with the results, rinse your project in a separate bath until it runs clear. I usually do this part by hand and usually wearing gloves because the dye that doesn't stick to the shirt might stick to your hands. So take precautions. You can also use a drop of mild detergent to help with the washing if you need. Then I turn the projects inside out and tumble dry them on low heat, or you can hang them outside, or you can hang them in the shower and let them drip dry. And it's also a good idea to machine wash them separately for the first several washes. I noticed that a lot of tie-dye shirts come out of the dryer with a lot of texture, so I like to press them out so I can really see the beautiful dye work. There are a lot of beautiful ways to express oneself, and this is by far one of the easiest and most colorful. Plus, you won't break the bank when creating your very own one-of-a-kind custom statement pieces. If you live in a snowy area, this technique is great to use with snow, so give it a try. With a little help from Tulip, Gildan, and Joann Stores, the possibilities truly are endless. I'm definitely proud of everything we've done on this channel, but there really is something wonderful about seeing actual growth. when you apply new things to whatever you already might know. And the results really speak for themselves. Maybe tie-dyeing isn't your thing, but maybe ice dyeing is, so give it a try. Thank you so much for joining me today and taking a stroll into a new craft territory. Next week we go in a completely different direction, one that I'm especially excited for my fellow 90s kids to join me on. So please be sure to tune in. And once again, I'd like to send a special thank you to Joann Stores, Gildan, and Tulip for sponsoring today's episode and for making crafting a little bit easier for all of us. Stay safe, stay crafty, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button, and follow me on TikTok and on Instagram, and eat your vegetables, and wear your mask, and drink water. Call your mom if you want to. Bye.